Here we go on a Friday. It's Raw Mike Richards. It's David Bastel in with Mark Zucchino keeping you company. Good morning, everyone, from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto. We got ourselves a pretty good show for you. I still like this song. It still works for me. John Pollock from Post Wrestling will join us in about 15 minutes' time. We're talking XFL. We're talking WWE Royal Rumble this weekend. Lots to talk about both fronts and both WWE related as well. Also, a little bit later on, Phil Gray, the senior lines manager from sportsinteraction.com, stops by. Not much to bet this weekend, but you'll always find something, some sort of angle. If it's the All-Star game, if it's the Pro Bowl, you're going to bet on some golf maybe. Yeah, I think you will. I think you will. Next weekend, of course, the Super Bowl. We'll talk about that number as well to see where it actually flies because it has been coming down. Phil Gray in a bit, but yeah, let's bring him in. Let's bring in Mark Zucchino. Mark, thanks for pinch hitting here, man. I know some people would advertise you as the other guy, but you're sometimes the guy as well.
Well, I was just outside begging, so this was easy for me this morning.
This is
I just
okay.
knocked on the window. I was planning on knocking on the window anyway this morning.
Well, it's either you or the cigarette guy, because there's a guy that collects the best cigarettes down King East here, and it's like co-host material.
There you go.
Co-host material, but you beat him out, so welcome.
Yeah, he's going to be sore tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
I had to beat him up.
Don't get into that. There's videos about that
That's
guy. So, you know what? I wanted to ask you what the hell's going on. You're almost like Carmen Sandiego.
Yes.
Where in the world is Mark Zucchino? What have you been up to the last little while? Because we've caught you on the phone, but you've been globetrotting as usual, which is not really a surprise.
I was in Hawaii doing PGA Tour radio for the first two events of the year, where Dustin waxed the field in Maui.
Yes, he
did.
did.
And then we went over to Honolulu and had a 6-man playoff. But Honolulu, forget the golf.
Yeah.
I was there for the missile threat. I was there for the chaos.
I was going to say, as soon as you say Hawaii, it was like, were you there for that? Were you there for that?
Davey, scariest I've never been that scared in my life.
Okay,
it was so legit.
Okay, so where were you when it actually happened? Did you actually receive a message on your phone or anything like that? And how the hell did they get to, like, is it just one beam message that goes everywhere?
Blanket to everything, and then the radio, this is not a test. This is not a test on your radio. It was brutal. I was on the 32nd floor of the Marriott at Waikiki Beach, which is pretty much like right in the heart of Honolulu.
Yeah.
The rest of the crew staying there. And we're just, we're panicking at this point. Go downstairs, lobbies, chaos, people running, trampling, crying. It was a mess. It was like out of a movie.
Yeah. A bad movie.
A bad movie. We came to the conclusion that, obviously if this is our buddy from North Korea that was probably nuclear, and we better call our wives and our family, which we did.
One of the best golfers in the world.
Yes,
too,
18 hole-in-ones.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
It's hard to beat that, but I digress. So really, are you making the call?
Made the call.
Made
the call to
Heather
Heather and said, listen.
Smokes.
And I said, but what if it's not that? What if it's not nuclear? Then we got to think survival, and let's get out of this downtown hub here. Let's get out of Tourismville, because they ain't bombing some field in the middle of nowhere. We got in the car, broke every law known to man to get to the golf course, just to get to open space. Yeah.
Right.
Open the bar at 9:30 a.m.
So do you still have the message in your phone?
Yes, I do.
You're not erasing
never
that.
Pull. I can pull this up if you like.
Yeah, no. I want to see it later.
Okay, I'll show you.
But
right.
Man, is that just because you see it in the movies, you see about instances. It's like no, this is real life.
Well, now the next
and it took
time,
a while too. It was like 38 minutes.
38 minutes.
What the hell's going on the other 37 minutes saying this is a test? Don't do it.
Well, next time I get upset about Roman Reigns going over again, I'll just look at that message. Bring me right back down to earth again.
Is that what it all comes down to?
Reigns is going over again.
No.
Oh, God. Where's my phone?
See, it's not so bad. Wait a second. No. Wow, that's crazy. So the cleanup happens about 38 minutes later. And then, like, do people start to settle down, or are people still curious about things? I mean, because it's one thing, it's a long period of time to be out that long thinking this is the end of my life. And then when it finally happens, it's not. There's got to be doubters that sit there and go, no, maybe not, maybe not.
Well, first of all, the mistake that one guy can press one wrong button,
Brutal.
that's brutal.
Brutal.
The fact that it can go 38 minutes without a retract after 2 minutes where they knew what was going on, that's even, to me, that's more inexcusable.
Yeah. And he was reassigned.
Yeah. Oh, what is this? The Catholic Church?
I get fired from jobs like this for doing nothing but delivering the goods.
He must
and
report,
this guy gets reassigned.
He must report to the Vatican. We just moved them, right? So it's unreal how, so that goes down, and then now you've got a broadcast, Davey, for 6 hours live. And everybody's a fried mess. I didn't feel good for, I think 3 days later, my wheels touched down in Toronto. I've never been so happy to come home to Toronto in January.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, I'm
from Hawaii.
Oh, the welcoming gray skies of Mississauga.
Oh, man. So that is crazy. Hey, watch any Leafs yesterday? Leafs win, by the way, 4-1 in Dallas. Big win. Curtis McElhinney. What the hell's going on with him? This guy's actually turning out some pretty nice performances as a backup. It's nice to see that he's actually playing.
Did it last year too, right? And Kadri playing well. And is Marner going to stick with Kadri, or are we going to bury him back on the fourth line again? Because I am sick of watching Marner rot on the fourth line. He is top six forward hands down.
Well, a lot of people don't know this. See, well, some people do, some people don't, but. Mitch Marner lookalike, Russell Graham in studio with us with the Russ Cam. Yesterday's performance, you got to be happy about that going into All-Star break, and the backup does it all for you guys. Played well in Dallas, didn't he?
He played great. Can't be mad with 4 out of 4 points on a back-to-back going into the break. Nice to see Kadri scoring again. I really hope Babcock doesn't do what he said in putting Leo back together, or back with Naz when they come back.
It's like skating around the ice with an anchor around your ankle. It's like, really? Leo Komarov, you don't know what a fourth line looks like? Christ's sake.
The second goal from Kadri, complete fluke, but 3 goals in 2 games with Marner, and I don't think there should be any way that line should be broken up.
Yep. Agree or disagree?
I agree 1,000%. What a shock. Boy, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out if I put Kadri with a playmaker, maybe he'll find the net.
See, I guess in Babcock's defense, he looks at that situation as, Kadri's my shutdown center. Kadri does score and have the ability to score, maybe a top 10 Frank Selke if they had a list that long, but he still has that ability to put offensive numbers and shut down that, the top center on the line. And I guess his thinking is you get another guy that has a shutdown ability, but don't forget about the offensive skill. This guy was drafted high in a first round, and he wasn't brought in just to manufacture the defensive structure of a opposition's top forward. So
I don't want to play Boston or Tampa Bay in the first round.
Well, you're going to get one or the other.
Okay, so exactly. So for me, the performance of the regular season, though, might mean a lot more. You don't know how things are going to shake down in the second half, right? We don't know. We're assuming that these two teams are going to keep on fire, Boston and Tampa. But everybody finds a lull at some point in the season, right? You would think.
What's the better team, Tampa or Boston?
I think Boston's going to win the whole thing. Even though everyone's all over Tampa,
really,
I think Boston, I
think Boston's better than Tampa. Tampa's better than Toronto. But I think Toronto matching up with Boston, I'm not saying...
Oh, you mean in terms of matchup?
Yeah, matchups.
Yeah, I like Toronto's matchup against Tampa better in terms of
Which is
matchup.
weird. It's Steven Stamkos and maybe the best line of hockey. Best goalie so far for the first, what has been 50 games, something like that. I know he's slumping a little bit, Andrei Vasilevsky, and it's like, that's the better matchup. I totally agree.
Okay, but do you agree? I think I know why you agree, because the way I feel, the reason I agree to that is because I think Toronto can play their style and still play their game against Tampa. They can open it up. We're going to see a lot of 6-4, 6-5 hockey games, and where I think if they go to Boston and you go into Boston and try to play that style against the Bruins, I don't know if that's going to match up for 7 games.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I think the Boston Bruins are a much tougher hockey club, and I think Zdeno Chara's kind of found the fountain of youth. So, Frankenstein lives. I mean, he's been that good for that team, and I mean, and you know what? He's almost in a situation where maybe they re-sign him to a smaller deal. Maybe he accepts it. Maybe, because of sentimental value, the guy's going to get his number retired in Boston, right up there with Bob Orr. Not too bad company. Captain of the Bruins. He's won a cup there. He's, you know what I mean? Like everything points to him staying there, even though a lot of people thought this is it for Z. This is another Z.
It's a bit of I don't want to call it a revival season, but in a way, yeah, he looks a lot more important to that team than you would have thought 12 months ago.
Yeah.
If I had created this scenario for you 12 months ago and his role on this team,
wouldn't have bought that.
Yeah, you wouldn't have bought it, right?
No, not at
and
all.
how good is that trade look? And how many years later? Was it about a decade later?
Of
the Ottawa-Boston trade.
You know what? Not a word of a lie. I'm working in Ottawa at the time, and John Muckler is part of the management group in the Senators' front office. And the big debate in Ottawa is, okay, Chara or Wade Redden? One has to go, one has to stay. And they all thought Wade Redden's the guy to stay, Canadian guy. He was always part of the conversation of Olympic team. He was so well loved in the community. And Chara was this big giant that didn't speak that much. Clearly the bigger player, but he wasn't as involved. And he thought that
described him as the great Kali.
Basically, yes, but a little bit faster, not much more. But man, what a difference, eh?
Boy,
man, I wish I could do that over again, don't you, Ottawa?
That's what you want them all to get on
Holy
that one, don't you?
smokes.
Oh,
Wade
boy.
Redden or Zdeno Chara. That's what it came down to, because it was all financial as well. And I think they're going to come into this situation again where it's like, you trade away Kyle Turris because he doesn't accept 6 for 6, or the Senators won't give him 6 for 6, and contract-wise, Matt Duchene comes in apparently better than Kyle Turris. What do you think he's going to ask for, less than 6? It's like, no, he's not.
Gonna
and
happen.
He's crapping the bed in Ottawa, which is you sit there and you go, man, do you just get rid of him as well? I mean, Joe Sakic stole those players once he dumped Matt Duchene. He gets back all these prospects. He puts guys in his lineup. I mean, kudos to the Colorado Avalanche. They actually look like they know what the hell they're doing.
Playing great right now, and on that run, they are beating real hockey teams. They're not they're not beating the lower third of the NHL.
They just came into Toronto and took 2 points from the Maple Leafs, where the Leafs should be able to beat them on home ice. Tiger Woods yesterday. We're going to get to more of this a little bit later on in the show, but quickly before we get to John Pollock, coming up in a matter of moments from Post Wrestling, Tiger, even par yesterday, comes close on 16, looked pretty well out there. Didn't look like you sat there and you went, okay, and you used the term look normal, which is kind of nice to hear, considering Tiger hasn't looked normal that much in the last couple calendar years that we've seen him on the course.
It's a compliment, Davey. It was a pedestrian round of golf. He looked like a regular PGA Tour player trying to post a score in a regular PGA Tour event. And I haven't been able to say that for years.
Yeah.
Okay. There was no freak show, no side show, no holding of the back, no shots that he hit where you went, oh my God, a 15 handicap doesn't hit that, right?
Yep.
There was none of that. He's got to hit more fairways, and he's got to give himself some closer looks if he's going to make the cut. Right now, starts the day kind of one off what they think the number might be. Obviously, that number might move. But if he can play 4 rounds of golf and just look normal and healthy, I think that's a huge success for Tiger.
What else did you like about the course as far as Torrey Pines? Does it look different than what we've seen Tiger? Because Tiger has eaten up this course and spit it out for breakfast. Does it look the same, or have they changed it
The
at all?
North course, where he'll play today, has changed. They went through a reno a couple of years ago, so he really doesn't know the ins and outs of that course. It's about a stroke and a half easier, but it's still going to be new terrain for Tiger. The South course, man, the rough is cabbage. It is just brutally hard. And although he's won 8 times there, you got to think that it's been a long time since Tiger's pegged it up in a competitive environment in a setup that difficult, with all due respect to what he did at the Bahamas. The Bahamas, that's 4-day lollygag with him and his buddies, 18 guys. There's no rough on that golf course.
Nope.
It's 85 degrees and sunny, and now here he is at Torrey Pines, and he's in the competitive Boilermaker that is the PGA Tour. And I tell you, Torrey is a hard golf. You and I could show up at Torrey a month from now and just peg it up on a Saturday morning, and it's going to be like, oh, when is the U.S. Open coming?
Really,
it's that tough. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, Tiger keeps on talking about he's getting himself ready for early April, and we know what's in early April. Is he going to
WrestleMania?
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's it.
There's something else going on. The Masters.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, I keep on my kids' birthdays. WrestleMania. I know. Is he going to be ready at that time, considering we're sitting here knocking on the door of February?
I think he's going to be more ready than he has been in at least 5 years. Okay, so at least 5 years he's going to be more ready than he's been a long time.
Well, that's good to know, because he hasn't shown up in 5 years.
Well, but even in 2013,
really?
right? Even in 2013, where he won 5 times on the PGA Tour, I don't think he was as prepared for weekends at majors as we could see from him this year. And I know that I'm throwing a lot out there in that statement, but the fact that he can practice and he can, hit as many balls as he needs to, and he might play 4 or 5 times before we get to Augusta. Yep. I can't tell you the last time I've seen him play 4 or 5 times by the time we get to that Thursday at Augusta.
What's realistic to say right now? I know this is really early and we don't know if something's going to re-aggravate as far as the back or the knees or the shoulder or whatever the hell he has next coming for him. What's realistic to say right now that Tiger should put expectations of top 10, top 15, top 20 in Augusta?
Yeah, I think
he's not winning the tournament.
Well, I don't think he is.
He probably thinks he is in the back of his mind.
I think Tiger right now is saying the right things about, I got to temper my expectations. This is his first tournament. I think a lot will depend on what he does, Davey, in the first 3 or 4 starts. If he compiles a few, made cuts and then starts to sneak into the top 10 a couple of times, we see him say, T5 at Bay Hill, which will probably be his last event before Augusta. If Tiger finishes tied for 5th or something along those lines, or has a chance on a Sunday at Bay Hill, and then he goes to Augusta, I bet you in his mind he's thinking, I can get this done.
Interesting. Let's call John Pollock right now. John Pollock's going to be talking some XFL football. We're also going to be talking, they're asking me what country this is from there, Rusty. Can you get over here while I figure out? This is where we get Rusty to figure out what the hell I'm doing wrong here with the phone. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Oh, we'll talk while we get ready.
XFL, only 40 men on a roster. Did you see that?
Yeah, 8 teams too, and he doesn't have any idea where these teams are coming from. Is going to be working in Toronto?
I don't know. It's a big WWE market.
And you know what I don't understand either? I don't understand where and don't get me wrong, I'm not against it or anything like that, but if you have a record, you don't play. Well, guess what? That eliminates 80% of the NFL right now and any of its players. So
I see you handing it off to me at some point with the Toronto franchise.
I was going to see how good a football is going to be if you don't have a conviction. I mean, that's just the way the NFL works. The CFL works. Football works in general. What number am I doing? Oh, there we go. John Pollock, formerly of the law. Now he's on to bigger and better things, of course. I'm looking for John Pollock. Good morning.
Hello, guys.
Hey, John. David Bastel, Mark Zucchino from RawMikeRiches.com. We're also streaming live on YouTube, on the dedicated YouTube channel from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto, of course. Great to talk to you. John, you're working for Post Wrestling, and catch him on postwrestling.com. Tell me about this venture before we get into some Rumble talk, some XFL talk. It's so good to hear from you. Happy belated New Year, by the way. I know it seems weird talking to you about this in late January, but you and I haven't talked in some time. I hope you're well, friend.
Well, same to both of you. It's great to be on the show. Yeah, Post Wrestling is my new outlet that I launched along with Wei Ting. We moved on from the Fight Network where we were working, and we just launched it on Christmas Eve. And that's where we're doing all of our shows now for MMA, pro wrestling, daily news, and it's been an unbelievable launch over the past month. So it's been a ton of fun, and that's kind of where we're dedicating all our time right now.
And so how does it work for you exactly? Because I know you do a lot of different mixed martial arts. You talk all different sorts of wrestling leagues, not just WWE. Is it still the same sort of aspect of what you've done in the past? Because you definitely specialize in it, and you're my first phone call whenever I need something done that is going to be done by a professional that actually knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the same stuff. We kind of have our network of shows that we've kind of expanded over the last couple of weeks, but kind of our go-to shows that me and Wade do every week. We always have a show up Monday night after Raw, Tuesday after SmackDown. This coming weekend, we'll have post shows after NXT TakeOver and the Royal Rumble. And we've also expanded, utilizing other shows as well. Sometimes we'll go back. We review classic events, breaking news shows as well. So it's kind of our playground right now to just kind of play around and see what people are enjoying. There's always been a heavy news element to all the stuff that we've been doing, so that's always been a critical component of like what we envisioned for this as well. So it's come together really nicely. I think that the audience has followed over. The numbers have just been astounding of what we've launched with. So it's been interesting, and having something of your own, it's a different beast.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, you're talking to two guys that have, between Mike and I, and Mike, of course, the genius behind RonMikeRichards.com, of course, and we're having a blast doing it too. So we're glad we're talking to people in the same sort of boat as ours. So welcome aboard. And postwrestling.com. We'll tweet out the link a little bit later on. And let's talk some before we get to Rumble. Let's talk a related topic, I guess, the XFL. I kind of laughed, John, a little bit when I heard they're going to do this again, considering that the demos in the States right now and across North America say kids are not playing as much football because of the danger of the sport. The XFL has failed in the past. Now they have more competition than they ever have before, and they still have competition with leagues like the 2 arena leagues, the NFL, of course, all the college stuff, the CFL. Can the XFL actually do it correctly this time, as opposed to what we saw last year in its last time, I should say, in its 1-year existence?
I think that even the most optimistic fans that followed the XFL, and more importantly, the XFL's business plan, would have enormous trepidation following Vince McMahon's announcement on Thursday. To me, this was asked during the press conference, and there was, among many topics that there weren't any definitive answers regarding, is going to be the distribution deal that the XFL can acquire out there. If there is a broadcast deal out for them that can pay them an enormous amount, we know what sports rights go for right now. I don't think the XFL is going to be in line for one of those larger networks that is going to want to be able to fill their schedule with XFL football. If they can land one of those deals, that's a game changer for them. But I feel that is going to be quite the Hail Mary for them to land. And just looking at the startup costs that we're aware of, that Vince McMahon cashed in just about $100 million worth of stock. Like, just looking at the logistics of this, it's that there's going to be a lot more that needs to go into this, and there's no promise that this is going to have a different fate than the first iteration of the XFL did.
Hey, John, 2 questions for you, just to pick up on that, because obviously there's going to need to be some TV revenue here, but is there part of this a fallback position, or does the audience translate it all to the WWE network in terms of, I need content, I need to attract more subscribers to that network, and maybe a part of my schedule of the XFL, my football audience might do that for me? And the second part of this starts to reek a little political for me. The fact that you can't have a record to play in the league. Is this Vince McMahon just trying to do his best Edge impersonation and be an opportunist and jump in when there's a portion of the U.S. who is angry at the NFL?
Yeah, great question. So the first one about kind of looking at the WWE network, I mean, that was a clear theme in the press conference of this line in the sand that Vince McMahon, chairman and CEO of the WWE, this has nothing to do with the WWE, even though this was blasted across all of the WWE's media outlets on Thursday. I think that it's impossible to separate the two when you're looking at all of this. The fact that the WWE is going to be negotiating their domestic television rights package this year, while this kind of side project that is technically another company is also going to be seeking out a television deal. Now, the WWE network, it's had good success, but it's not at a level where if you were to take Raw or SmackDown and put them on the network, this would significantly handicap this company, because you would be giving up, like, their television rights. That is the biggest revenue generator for the WWE. If you take out the USA Network deal, that's a major blow to their overall finances, because you would have to make up all of that in added subscribers to the network, which I don't think is realistic. Putting the XFL onto the WWE network, I think that you're going to have to go back to the first XFL, where week 1 was huge, and then we saw it just plummet week after week. Are those fans going to be willing to subscribe to a network for $10 a month for this? I mean, the hardest part was getting them to tune in for free. Yeah. So I think that's a really tough go to try and imagine that people are going to pay for this product, on top of the fact that you're going to have to convince them that this is football worthy of your time after the NFL, after college football, after the CFL. Like, what is the quality of play going to be? And then just dovetailing into the whole political nature, I think the second Vince McMahon started to explain this is not about politics, but then essentially said that everyone will have to stand for the anthem, you've immediately made this political. And I don't think you can take that no matter what your intentions are. So I think that was certainly a theme that came out of the press conference, that whether they want it to be or not, this is going to be political in nature, and this is going to be launching during an election year, that it's going to be a war zone at this time, that I feel football is going to be very much part of the political narrative 2 years from now.
Very interesting. We're in conversation with John Pollock from postwrestling.com. Check it out. It's a fantastic site, and we're really happy to talk to John. Wrapping up the XFL portion of this interview, does Toronto legitimately have an opportunity or a chance? Would Vince McMahon consider a team in the Toronto-based area for his brand new league, or is it strictly going to be USA all the way?
I mean, my gut would be that it's going to be contained in the U.S., if for nothing more than that you could have a television package that would be attractive, that would be all domestic rights in the U.S. I don't know. I don't think that you would also want to come into Canada, where you'd be going into markets. Like, they specifically said they were somewhat vague about staying away from markets that already have an NFL franchise in it. Now, the Toronto Argonauts are not an NFL franchise, and you could argue there's a bit of, Toronto could be a battleground for a football franchise, but I would be very surprised if they would go outside of the U.S. I see this going to pockets of the U.S. that at least have the infrastructure for it, and then also which would be craving football at that time of the year.
John, I just want to switch gears with you here, because Monster Wrestling fan, and this weekend officially kicks off the road to WrestleMania at the Rumble. And I was just curious from your standpoint, because I'm hearing a bunch of names being thrown around. And before we started broadcasting this morning, I was talking to Dave about potential of Shinsuke Nakamura walking out of the Rumble and headlining WrestleMania with AJ Styles. I know Vince McMahon hates to use the term wrestling. It's sports entertainment. But with what Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho did in New Japan Wrestling, do you think that the WWE is under any pressure at all to put a match like that on the card that is for a wrestling purist, a Nakamura versus AJ Styles main event, one of what will be 3 or 4 main events?
Yeah, I don't think that the WWE feels a pressure to deliver that. I feel that their NXT product, I think, very much is a response to that product, and to service that fan base that for a lot of times feels they don't get out of the main roster. And you've seen the track record with NXT, and I think catering more to just a traditional professional wrestling perspective, and just simple angles, talented workers that they brought from all over the world. I think that every fan is looking at AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura as a match that they would like to see at WrestleMania, and I think it puts Nakamura in a position that it's a possibility for the Royal Rumble on Sunday. And with AJ Styles, I think that's a ready-made opponent for him. They've had the match before. I think you can certainly tell that story over the next few months, and it would be very beneficial for Nakamura, who his main roster run has been underwhelming at this point, and he hasn't been able to have kind of that backstory told and have the opponent that he can go out and have that big match with. So from just a selfish point of view, I think that would be the direction that they should go in for both of their WrestleMania programs.
John, if we're connecting the dots and what we saw on Raw 25 this past week with Roman Reigns dropping the Intercontinental title to The Miz, does this mean that Roman Reigns goes over at Rumble and Roman Reigns gets jammed down our throat as the guy that's going to get the push into a WrestleMania main event, and Roman Reigns is going to win a title, and Mark and I are going to go, beat each other up because we hate the Roman Reigns push number 17 in the last 17 chances? Is he going to be jammed down our throats one more time?
Well, I could be kind and give you all these alternatives, which are always
But we're right? Is that what you're saying? We're right?
I think that what you laid out is probably, that's kind of the path that they've laid out for this year.
That is so disappointing. That is so disappointing. Mark, keep going.
I'm just curious, just to piggyback that, John, what happened to the days of the crowd, the audience putting guys over? versus The Office picking to put a guy over. And what do you think the odds are of us seeing Daniel Bryan cleared before WrestleMania or at any point with the WWE? And, because I hear his contract might be expiring this year, and if that's the case, they won't clear him. He might be elsewhere.
His contract is up in September. I would say the odds of him being cleared are extremely minuscule. I know that there's a lot of optimism that he's going to make this miraculous recovery. And, I mean, the WWE has stated, like, they have not changed their decision on all of this. However, they certainly haven't, they've shined a giant light on this by building him on SmackDown, that just the casual observer would look at this, that this is building to a match for this guy. So they have teased this on television, but I really don't think you're going to see a reversal of the diagnosis that they gave. I mean, for those not aware, I mean, Daniel Bryan has sought a second opinion elsewhere, and they have given him the go-ahead. They think he is cleared and he can go, but WWE's chief medical physician is not comfortable clearing him. And for the WWE to go against that recommendation, it just opens them up for so much if there was, knock on wood, some awful issue that happened with Daniel Bryan down the road. So I just don't think that in this era of the WWE, 10 years ago, this guy is in the Royal Rumble. Like, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
It's just a more conservative approach. And I can't say I disagree with them that if they have their own diagnosis that they're taking the safer option here with Bryan. So I don't expect him wrestling on Sunday or at WrestleMania, and probably ever again in the WWE.
Interesting. Final question from us, and thanks again for joining us, John. It's John Pollock from Post Wrestling here on RawMikeRichards.com. The Undertaker on I guess Raw 25. He comes out. He does his promo. Doesn't really say much. Doesn't really move that well. We've seen that before with him.
I'm still confused from the promo.
I am too, because I thought this would be a nice little setup to, I'm coming back and I'm gonna beat up somebody would come down for a run-in. There doesn't seem to be a direct path of who The Undertaker may or may not be facing. Are we going to see The Undertaker at WrestleMania, or have we truly seen the last of him? Because they hint at it. There's been rumors all over the net. You guys have talked about it before on postwrestling.com, but what can you say right now as we go into the Rumble weekend?
Well, I think it'll probably be Raw 50 by the time we can figure out what that promo.
Thank you. At least we're not alone. At least we're not alone.
It was an awful show on Monday when you had your biggest number in over 3 years, like an enormous audience. And I just thought it was so squandered. And The Undertaker being one of many, when you have such a big platform to shoot a key angle for WrestleMania in front of the largest audience, like, that's a layup. And it was totally missed on Monday. I do expect The Undertaker to work WrestleMania. I think that he's significantly lost that aura over the last number of years. And the fact that you went off the air at WrestleMania last year with, like, the symbolic retirement. I mean, it wasn't stated, but it was like that was the closing scene of WrestleMania. And yes, you can bring him back, and yes, he'll get a pop at WrestleMania, and you can do a match with him. But I feel it's lost a lot of the importance that he brought to his one match a year up until a couple of years ago. So I expect him to do the match. I think that John Cena is the opponent for this year, and I'm very surprised they didn't do anything hinting in that direction this past month.
Yeah, us too. But many questions were lost on that Raw 25. John, always great talking to you. Enjoy the Rumble weekend, and we will continue to enjoy your work on postwrestling.com. Thanks for doing this today.
Very much appreciate it, guys. Thanks very much, and anytime. Love chatting with you.
John Pollock from postwrestling.com. That's your go-to for anything wrestling related, and always good talking to him. John's one of my favorites, and we had to get him on, not only because we had a golf wrestling guy, which is hard to do. The wrestling guy, really easy. Golf guy, not that easy, but a guy that at least knows what he's doing. That's kind of harder. We got them both in you.
Put them together.
Yeah, we put them together. It's a rarity. Do you ever bring out the wrestling terminology when you're on PGA Tour radio?
All the time.
Really?
They love it. Yeah.
Did you ever sit there and go, Phil Mickelson, you just made the list? Nothing like that? Or
nothing to that extreme.
You just made the cut.
But I did reference The Rock and the People's Elbow when we were in Hawaii.
Very good.
So And I am working Charlotte this year for the Wells Fargo.
Oh, really?
So there will be some woos on that broadcast.
Absolutely.
Guaranteed.
A couple birdies and we're woo! Oh, I love it. You know, one thing, going back on the XFL really quick, I was hoping that I was going to have Vince McMahon walk out there and go, "This is the XFL." He didn't do that at all.
There was none of it. It was very buttoned down. It was it was bizarre though. But what like John was saying was, I find very interesting because you can say whatever you want about the separation between WWE. You can come out buttoned down without the Vince McMahon shtick being Mr. McMahon.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, he's right. Every single wrestling feed, every single WWE feed, news outlet, etc., was all over this and took it as WWE news. So that separation of the two is going to be a lot harder than what I think Vince understands to be right now.
Yeah, completely. So, you know, and it's hard to sit there and not marry the two together.
He's Vince McMahon.
Exactly. And it's like, what's the first thing you think about when you see him? And so, I don't know. I think they're making a mistake, to tell you the honest truth, that to not to marry the two. And I'm not saying, you know, I'd bring in wrestlers to compete on the football level. Like, it was kind of funny. Vince McMahon comes out yesterday and says, the two are separate. I'm going to do this, going to do that. And then if you look on some of the wrestling sites, Nia Jax was sitting there joking about getting a tryout, and so-and-so was saying, oh, I'm going to, it's like, well, you know what? Maybe you should have sent out the memo to the rest of your crew saying, shut the hell up during this press conference. I'm trying to be Dr. Serious. It clearly wasn't.
Rumor has it, instead of a coin toss, you have to reverse a figure four at midfield. If you can reverse, that's who gets the ball.
Yeah,
so.
A lot of people forget that the
roll it. If you roll it, it's now I've got you. Okay.
Well, no, not that aspect.
Oh, okay.
But yes, people that don't know that should know that.
They should know that.
But no, a lot of people forget that they used to stick a ball on a yard line, and it used to be a race to the ball to determine.
In today's concussion world, never going to happen.
That's like the red flag. Like when they're handing out concussion videos, they probably could put that XFL opening decision on who gets the ball first as, this is a reason why we can't do this anymore, because idiots like this decided this would be fun.
Are we going to go with nicknames on the back of jerseys this time? Or real names?
I hope not.
He hate me?
He hate me. You know what's funny? I tried getting a hold of, his name is Rod Smart.
Yes. He played for Carolina Panthers, I believe.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
And he actually had a little bit of a cup of coffee with him, which was pretty significant considering that he was probably parking cars on King East at one time. So, you know what? Good for him for taking advantage of it. Phil Gray, by the way, will join us in a couple minutes. Rusty, I'm going to need a hand with this because this Skype is starting to... I can see why Mike is, flips out when he sees this, because you kind of want to break the computer, but it's not my computer. So you can't break it, but you want to break it, but you can't. By the way, anybody listening out there, I got a couple comments about it. Mike is away today because yesterday, as he mentioned on the show, he had a couple procedures done at the Sunnybrook Hospital. I'll let him explain it on Monday, but the great news is it is a complete success so far. So things are looking up. I don't want to sit there and overrate it saying everything's going to be perfectly fine. But things are trending in that direction. We're so excited about it. Russ and I were talking about it, and then we brought you into the conversation about, finally after all this time, it looks like things are going in the right direction. And as I've told Mike in the past, and I know he's listening right now, 2018 is going to be our year, and it's a great start there. So Phil Gray, actually right now, let's try him out right now and see if he's actually online. This is a senior lines manager from Sports Interaction, of course, all your gambling sites. This is the site to gamble on, sportsinteraction.com.
David Bassel.
I am looking for Dr. Phil Gray. Phil, how are things?
David Bassel, I'm fine. How are you this morning?
Very good. It is Phil Gray, Senior Lines Manager for SportsInteraction.com. So good to talk to you. We're in studio, as you know, with Mark Zucchino from Golf Talk Canada, who joins us. And it's funny, I was telling Mark off air, our conversation, Phil, that's like, usually we talk to you about lines and figuring stuff out, and then you send me one, let's just talk golf with Mark instead.
It's funny because Phil wants to talk golf. Yeah. I want to talk wrestling. And John, who we just let go, wants to know if the line's going to move. Yeah. So
that's exactly. The stars have aligned this morning, David, because you got another wrestling and golf guy on the line here. There are times when the line moves our way, I do my hacksaw Jim Duggan to the to the trading center. I got my putter over my shoulder. I'm walking through. We killed it, baby.
and just for historical reference, the inaugural Royal Rumble winner Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Ooh.
So it came full circle there, Phil.
Nice
Came full
reference.
circle.
Hey, when we talk about Tiger Woods in a tournament, and let's get into it a little bit, Phil. When we talk Tiger Woods, I'm guessing the action, so to speak, at Sports Interaction probably goes up significantly just because Tiger's such a public player. We know public teams in the NFL and the NHL and different leagues and throughout, but there may not be a more public player than Tiger Woods in the history of golf. Are you guys seeing significant wage increase when we know that Tiger's in Torrey Pines and Tiger, after an even round, is on the verge of making a weekend, which is, he has to put together a nice Friday today. But does your books kind of equal what I just kind of stated?
Well, look from the start. I mean, what is he, 650th in the world, Mark, somewhere around there?
Yeah.
And he opened at 20. He opened at 20 to 1 to win this tournament. He's out to 40 to 1 today. But I had a number of really, really cool props up for him. I actually had Will Tiger have a hole in one at 125 to 1. Doesn't he almost jarred on 16? Well, that's Tiger, right? I've had many molten product-induced conversations with compatriots over the years. He's the most dominant athlete of our time. He's the most polarizing for sure. I mean, for a decade and a bit, it didn't matter what tournament he was in, whether it was a major or was a regular PGA Tour event. He opened at 3 to 1. That was the number. You didn't even have to look around. Tiger opened at 3 to 1. He's back. He looked good. I liked his presser. He looked good on Wednesday. He seemed calm. He seemed relaxed, like Mark said. He played a pedestrian round for sure. His putting looked great. And if he keeps it in the fairway and he gets some of his mojo back, look, right now at the Masters, he's down to 10 to 1 at some books. 10 to 1.
That is crazy.
He's 5.5 to 1, even at the brick and mortars in Vegas to win a major this year. So that just tells you exactly where the public money is going.
So I guess that's my lead, Phil, to the next question. The public money. Is Tiger to the golf world and how you see the action around golf, is that like Patriot money in football or Peyton Manning Colts days in football where, the public money, the casual gambler, the casual fan always takes the favorite to cover? Is that the Tiger bet in terms of golf world?
Absolutely. He's the most bet golfer in the field right now for the Masters. I mean, and look ahead. I mean, we have all 4 majors and the players are all posted now as futures, and you can go through each event, and he is the most bet golfer by far.
That's very good. Hey, you know what? I have to tell it's a little too late for some of our customers right now on sportsinteraction.com. And as we mentioned before, sign up for that $200 bonus on first time people that get on that site. And make sure you tell them you listen to it right here on Ron Mike Richards. You guys had a piñata pick for Tiger Woods and where he'd finish in this tournament. So I just you know how curious I am about these sort of things, Phil. So I threw down 3 different side bets on Tiger Woods piñata. So the first one I threw down, so it's $1, and you get Tiger Woods. Is it at 71 or 71 to 1 odds of winning if you place properly? How did it actually work, Phil? Before I get into what my results were on that piñata pick.
It's like a lottery pick, and whatever result that you get in the piñata, it's completely random when you bet it. If you get him, if he comes in 14th place, it's going to pay 70 to 1. If he comes in, 60th place, it's going to pay 71. Pretty cool, right? And
it's very cool. I love your piñata picks. As soon as I see that thing hanging and swinging back and forth, I'm like, it's Phil Gray guiding me in one more time, like a Jedi Knight.
That's unique to the SIA, and we're going to have a really cool winning margin one for the Super Bowl, and we'll have a couple others. We're going to have like 3 or 4 up for the Super Bowl, and we're really expanding the piñata, and we're excited about that because it's hugely popular with our base. So every week you're going to have it for PGA tournaments. You're going to have it for outrights for all the other major sports, for NASCAR. They're hugely popular in NASCAR as well. So we're really excited about that.
As soon as that horse is rocking back and forth on the stick, you got me hooked for at least $5 or $6. So the first one I throw down, Phil, I get it, and it says Tiger Woods to win the hole. So I'm kind of disappointed. So I try again, and it goes Tiger Woods, and this is interesting. These two next bets I'm very excited about. Tiger Woods to finish 23rd.
Really? See, now there's a sweet spot, right?
Yeah. And then the next one, and you got to remember, there's a lot of ties in golf. There's a lot, the next one is Tiger Woods to finish 45th.
Now, David, if this comes in, I'm coming to Toronto next week. You're taking me Real Sports for lunch.
well, hey, I have no problem if these are going to hit, but I love it, and yeah, definitely check that out on sportsinteraction.com. It's the Piñata picks, and you have a lot of other stuff going on. Can you tell me in a nutshell? I know we're about to enter the week of Super Bowl, and that's kind of where things get going a little more. I know this is the off week. It kind of is cool out there, and you're not really thinking football, even though the last game of the season is coming up in days. But as far as props are concerned, what can people expect on the site and the amount of props? It's just, I guess the best way of describing Super Bowl is that's when everybody goes out and bets props, even if you don't really do it throughout the season.
It's a time of year for sure where recreational bettors sign up in droves. So we try and drive a lot of the people to the site with the prop bets. Last year we had well over 400. I'm looking at it now, and some of our prop guys and our marketing guys are starting to come in with some really interesting stuff. You know, the entertainment props are the ones that really get out there in the media. One of the ones we're going to have will Questlove and Pink wear Eagles merchandise and a dog.
Oh, yes.
Interesting. You know, come on, you know, will Janet Jackson get on stage? That's a pretty good. Another wardrobe malfunction, you know.
There you go.
Is Justin Timberlake going to do a Prince song? Will there be an NSYNC reunion? That actually came from Steve Rapp's daughter, so we're going to post that. Will there be an NSYNC reunion? Dave, you want to put a line on that?
Yeah, let's hope not.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Joey Fatone came out this week, said there isn't going to be.
It's because he's at the Mandarin.
Interesting. Yes, like the restaurant.
Yes, he won't leave the Have you seen Joey Fatone in a while?
You knew that kind of bugs.
Well, here's my impression of Joey at the Mandarin is, I'll have another. Or yes, please.
Yes, please.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, management's probably locking up the shop and closing off the lights and going, Joey, get the hell out of our place, man. It's time to leave. It's 10 o'clock at night.
Does this look like a man who's had all he could eat? To steal a line from The Simpsons, Phil. Two quick questions for you. Is this a Rob Gronkowski line that he's playing? Or is this a line that assumes that he's playing next Sunday? Or is this a current line that assumes that he isn't playing? Because right now, from what I've heard most recent, is that it's up to an independent doctor under protocol of the NFL to determine whether he's good to go. And part two of that, what would this line be right now if Wentz was starting for the Eagles? Is it a pick 'em at that point?
The last I saw, he didn't practice yesterday, and I saw that about the independent doctor as well. So this is a line, you know, that the books are just kind of throwing out there because we have to. And I talked last week on Inside the Lines, and for sure we saw that opening on 7. I would have thought, you know, without the Gronkowski injury and without the Philadelphia complete dominance of Minnesota, this line would have moved north of 7. I would have expected to be at 8 or 9. You know, with the doubt with Gronkowski and Philadelphia's performance has certainly come down. It's sitting on 5 now. If he's not going to play, boy, this would it get down to a field goal? I would hesitate to say no, but maybe 3.5 or 4. If Carson Wentz was playing, this would have sat on 3 for sure. But again, the Gronkowski injury would have came in and made it. You know, it could have gone down below 3. But I would have expected with Carson Wentz was playing, and it would have sat on 3, and maybe the public money would have pushed it to 3.5 by kickoff. Limits are still low across most of the books right now. You're looking at 25% is all you can get down, even in Vegas. Once we get later in the week and everybody goes to full limits, you're going to see the professional money come in, and that's where the line is really going to move.
Yeah. Now, do we see this line going crazy? And which way would you describe it, going up or down, as far as the 5 is concerned right now?
Well, looking at the action right now, everything's trending towards Philadelphia on the spread and the money line. The money line is going to be a huge concern because when you get to paying that kind of money, they're like 160 right now. With us, you can probably get it 180 if you go to a shop in Vegas. So that's pretty attractive for you know, people that see the payout, right? You know, I'm gonna pay, you know, $10 and I'm gonna get $18 back, right? So that's pretty it's pretty attractive. And when we see that's when the money line gets really scary. We saw that last week with Jacksonville and New England. We dodged the bullet there. Boy, that would have been a huge payout on a Jacksonville win. Huge payout. They closed it 4-1. So, you know, for every buck we were paying out $4.
Man, that's cool. Hey, next week you're going to join us here in studio. Is this true? You're not going to back out on us or anything, are you, Phil?
Absolutely, I'm booked. I'm coming to torture George all day Sunday on Inside the Line. He can't wait.
Well, we love you here and over there. Well, I love you there. But yeah, we'll get to that later. Mark has a final question for you, Phil.
Phil, I just want to squeeze in one last golf. What's the futures right now on Justin Rose at Augusta? Because he is my long-term pick to walk away with the green jacket this year.
I think he's around 12-1. I'd have to check it, but he'll be around there. He'll be around $10. Yeah, boy, what a great golfer! Yeah, man, what a swing.
How can you finish that many times top 5 year in year out and not eventually walk away with one? I think this might be the year. So
interesting. Does it play in favor of him right now, Z?
Yeah, well, he played very well in the quote unquote off season, winning tournaments in Europe and whatnot. He's a little sluggish out of the gates on the PGA Tour, but you watch. By the time we get to the Florida swing in March, he'll have another win under his belt.
Wicked.
He's a guy I wouldn't bet against on a Sunday. He's rock solid now. He's got a couple of those big wins under his. So I wouldn't see him folding on a Sunday. And actually, right now I wasn't close. I wasn't far off. He's at 18-1. So Mark, that's a great pick right now.
Getting in early on that one. Because
I'm sure by April that's going to drop.
Phil, don't be adjusting those lines when you get off the call with us, okay? I may latch on to Z's picks there with that, but hey, you know what? Always good talking to you, Phil. Thank you again, and next week we look forward to seeing you right in this chair beside me. Should be a lot of fun. Super Bowl is always fun for all different kind of reasons, even if you don't have a dog in the race. And on sportsinteraction.com, that is the destination place to be when you're making that wager or two on the big game. So thanks so much. Safe travels, and we will see you in 7 days.
You bet, buddy. Thanks. See you next week.
Thank you, Phil. Phil Gray, our senior lines manager at sportsinteraction.com. Always good to talk to him. And, yeah, next week he's going to be in studio sitting in that very same seat. It should be a lot of fun. Super Bowl, when the 49ers, because you're a 49ers fan.
Monster.
You actually saw a Super Bowl of recent years. And I'm not talking about the 80s. I'm talking about of recent years.
Kaepernick taking them and losing?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And myself, not so lucky with the Jets. I've never been alive for a Jets Super Bowl.
But you like to prance around the house in fur coats and do the Joe Namath tribute.
You know what? There isn't a fur coat I've said no to. But is it hard for you to sit there and watch a Super Bowl game even though you don't have a dog in the race?
No, I love football. It's my favorite team sport. I watch it constantly when I can. It's tough being a golf guy and having to be engaged on Sundays.
No kidding. Yeah, it's very tough doing that.
I really look forward to December because December's that 1 month a year where I don't have to be watching golf. Really don't. And if there's any golf going on, it's at the wee hours of the morning from the other side of the world. So
yeah.
I respect the Patriots. I understand why people can't stand them, but I actually, from a guy who always felt that Joe Montana was the greatest quarterback of all time.
Me too.
It's kind of hard now to not respect and look at what Tom Brady's doing and say, there's the guy. There's one and Montana two, and then let the debate begin after that.
Yeah, because right? I don't think it's fair to say that after Brady Montana, can you sit there and solidify the bronze medalist? Because I don't think you can.
No, I think there's 7 names that you throw in, and depending on how far back you want to go as well, right?
Yeah, and then you run into the situation where people talk about names like Johnny Unitas, and it's like, well, I haven't seen Johnny Unitas play, but I respect what I've heard about how great this guy was and how he was the Tom Brady of his time, and how if everything's on the line, like when we've talked to Clark Judge on this show, he's mentioned countless times, but you know what? The average viewer right now can't sit there and say, yeah, Johnny Unitas is in that conversation because they haven't seen the guy play.
I agree 100%. I also think you can't give a nod to a quarterback as the greatest of all time in an era. And even though he was more of a throwing quarterback for the era than everyone else, in today's game, it would be ridiculous. He'd be running in our world now. We'd be like, oh, this guy all he does is hand it off, right? So I think, how do you give a nod to a quarterback in an era where it was a run first game? I don't think you can. I think you got to look at, with all due respect to Staubach and Terry Bradshaw, I think the throwing world of the NFL starts with Dan Fouts in the late 70s, early 80s with the Air Coryell offense. And then from there it goes to the West Coast offense with Joe Montana. And I think that's when you start looking at quarterbacks as the modern day quarterback to what we have today.
Yeah. Are you happy with what you've seen in Jimmy Garoppolo?
Because I got my ticket. I got my ticket for the parade next year already.
Because people that have listened to this show, I might be the biggest San Francisco 49ers fan that is the biggest Jimmy G fan. The guy is big-time money, and I look forward to seeing what they actually do in the offseason. I'm not sure if Carlos Hyde is going to be back, but I think they need that support in the backfield and give them a couple receivers outside of the one they have in place because they're building that foundation. I wasn't a big Lynch guy just because he hasn't been in that situation before as a general manager of a team, but I think they got the right head coach, and I think right now if you can give the right head coach the right pieces with the right quarterback, man, that division's open because the Seahawks are going to stink next year. The Cardinals aren't going to be as good. The Rams are there for the short term. I don't know how long it's going to be, but it could come down to a Rams 49ers type of head-to-head that determines who wins that division.
Well, I think their offseason looks dramatically different than what it did before the last 5 weeks of the season.
Sure.
I think you're right. I think now all of a sudden it's like, okay, we don't need to go hunt for the big piece.
That's right.
He's there. So now we have a reason to go out and be smart and maybe draft a little different, draft for a position versus talent. I don't know. That's always the big debate sometimes around the draft. Do you just draft the next best player that's available, or do you draft to the need on the team? It's always a debate. But when you've got a quarterback now that is your centerpiece, I think you're trying to complement that the rest of the way. I land a week Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. I land in San Francisco because I'm working the Pebble Beach Pro-Am for PGA Tour Radio.
Yeah.
And my first purchase when that plane comes down, looking for my Jimmy G jersey, baby. I'll be wearing it all week at Pebble Beach.
Oh, that's very cool. I could probably get you one for about 70% cheaper if you want to do it on the
side
market. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So quickly before we wrap up the show, Royal Rumble expectations and what you think is actually going to happen. Are we looking at a Roman Reigns win and we get spoon-fed this guy? Well, I shouldn't even see spoon-fed. Jam. Spoon jam.
It's rape.
Down the
We're getting raped at this point. I'm part of the Me Too movement with Roman Reigns. Okay, that's how violated I feel from this push.
Most wrestling fans do. Is that what we're looking at realistically? Because if he's the guy that's standing at the end of the Royal Rumble, I'm going to be pissed.
Okay, I think we get Roman Reigns in the main event against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania.
Okay.
And I think he leaves with the strap. Now, whether it comes out of the Rumble that way, I don't know, but we get to that scenario somehow. We could also see, I think we're going to get Shinsuke and AJ. Whether that comes through the Rumble, I think that's more than likely more of a possibility. I don't think you can do it with Reigns in Philadelphia without the Philadelphia crowd burning the arena to the ground, right?
Isn't that the truth?
There's a part of me that thinks the WWE is going to make us even more angry. There's a part of me that thinks that they're not going to give us Shinsuke on Sunday. They're not going to give us Roman on Sunday, which would make you and I both happy. Go with somebody way offside, way out of big surprise, but it's going to be somebody we absolutely hate. It's going to be like, okay, now you're going to give me the lone wolf Royal Rumble winner. And you're just going to go, really? Another forced push. So you go off the other two. You do what wrestling fans really want. You stay away from Roman Reigns. And what do? You jam another guy down our throat that's for some reason has become a corporate puppet. I don't know why.
When you look at some of the matches too, I see Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan losing their titles because I think that garbage team is finished and done with. And I think there could be a turning. What I'd like to see is Seth turn heel because I think he's a proper heel, not a face. And I think he could be so much better than this. I don't like him smiling and being friendly with people.
They're going to waste him. Dean Ambrose hurt, not knowing when he's coming back.
Thank you.
Seth Rollins is going to get wasted, and he's going to end up fighting Jason Jordan at WrestleMania in a complete throwaway match that will never be spoken of again. That's what's going to happen.
Who's your favorite new talent in the WWE before we wrap?
New talent. That is
tough.
tough.
And I'm saying new talent as in
up and coming, maybe.
Up and coming. Looks like he has a good program or she has a good program and have maybe been in the company for 1 year. Because I got one particular person and I will not miss a segment.
I like the Elias
bit.
You like that too?
That is it.
I think he's got a great little character going. I think he rubs the crowd the wrong way, and he can go.
Perfect.
He's a big boy. He can go.
Yes.
I think he's good. But the only reason I tune in for 5 minutes of Raw anymore is for the Miz and the Miz Taraj.
Okay.
So it's for me, I hope they don't burn him at WrestleMania. That guy's carried that show for a year now.
Because it's funny you say that, and I talked to a couple of my other friends that watch wrestling like this, like Coach Frank, who's watching to us right now, and it's like Raw's the 3-hour show, but I realistically will watch 15 minutes of it.
Yeah.
It's like I can't sit there and devote any kind of time like that as long. And
like
it's with the PVR, and it's like, I'm sorry, you lost me, and it's funny, and I kind of laughed at it where Vince McMahon said we can't have football games be 3.5 hours and sell it. It's like, well, you shouldn't have wrestling at 3 hours and try to jam this down our throats too. By the way, Rumble's supposed to be 4+ hours.
Oh, see, I don't know if I can do it.
That's way too long.
I don't know if I can do it.
I'll
try. I'll try with a couple bottles of red to get through it.
Marky, always a pleasure.
Well done, Mike. Thank you. Thanks for having me,
so
Mike. I hope you're feeling good. Enjoy the golf this week, and next time I'm in, I hope I get to see you.
Absolutely. And as I leave you with this, I say, who wants to walk with Elias? This guy. What? This guy right here. And that guy too.
Become best friends.
And that guy over there. And the cigarette guy behind us. I'm not joking. The guy's that good. A huge thanks to our guest, Phil Gray from SportsInteraction.com, for joining us. He was fantastic. John Pollock from PostWrestling.com. Great guest today. My co-host, Mr. Who's the Guy? It's Mark Cicchino, Golf Talk Canada. Always a pleasure talking to him. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the Pro Bowl. No, you won't. Enjoy the All-Star game. No, you won't. And it's an off weekend for the NHL, so I'm disappointed about that. But have yourselves a good one. David Bassel saying, see you later from the DKI studios on King East. We will see you on Monday.